Welcome to episode 24 of Full Court Magic. I am your host, Don Strouble, the Orlando Magic beat writer for Roundtable Sports. And as always, this episode, just like all the other ones, is presented and powered by Roundtable Sports. You can find the link to Roundtable Sports in the Orlando Magic page, specifically in the description. As always, we appreciate your support. I am so happy to say that since my last time coming to you guys with an episode, we have crossed the 300 member threshold, which was a target goal for us to hit before the end of May. So, for any of you who have joined and discovered us via this podcast, or told your friends about us to get us to, or get them to join, told your family, so on and so forth. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the support. It means so much. And you guys are the fuel that keeps this engine running. So let's talk about the Magic. That's why we're here, right? Since I was last on the air 10 days ago, uh, and since the Magic fired Coach Jamal Mosley, um, 3 weeks ago, today is when the news dropped. Um, there's still not a head coach for this team since Mosley has been fired. You know, it's interesting, but not at the same time. It's kind of expected. And I will get into why that is here soon. But obviously, Mosley gone after that 3-1 collapse to the Detroit Pistons. Since then, he has found a new home with the New Orleans Pelicans, signing a 5-year deal recently to become the new head coach of the Pelicans and lead that franchise out of the troubled waters that it has found itself in for a couple of years now. And, I'm happy for Mosley. I think that he is starting in a much better situation than what he inherited with the Magic in terms of talent and direction. And so, I mean, he was always kind to us in the media, seemed like a good ambassador of the community, just an all around good dude. And so I wish Coach Mose the best in his new endeavor. But the point of this is to talk about why the Magic haven't hired a new head coach yet, and if it's something that fans should be concerned about. And I'm going to start out quickly, no point in beating around the bush, by saying no. Fans should not be concerned. I have a lot of criticisms about Jeff Weltman, as I'm sure all of you guys do. The Magic's president of basketball operations. But, he was good on the Mosley hire. Um, and he's a guy that takes his time, no matter who it's been, right? So, you go from Frank Vogel to Steve Clifford to Jamal Mosley. Like, Weltman has always taken his time with this stuff, several weeks, right? And so I saw a post about this recently. I don't remember who made it, whether it was a reporter or a fan account, but it was solid analysis regardless of, on average, Jeff Weltman in his tenure with the Magic has taken 5 to 7 weeks between firing a coach and hiring a coach. And we're just now at the 3-week mark of the news of Jamal Mosley being fired and the subsequent press conference held by Weltman to discuss his reasoning for wanting to let Mosley go and move in another direction. What I did find interesting about that press conference that Weltman held was he didn't really have a defined trait, uh, resume, body of work, whatever you want to call it, that he would like to see in the Orlando Magic's next head coach. He said that coaches come in all shapes and sizes, and it's one of those things where he seems like he just wants someone who is going to best fit the culture and help this team take the next step. Whatever and whoever that looks like. And so last time I did an episode, I talked about Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan was one of the first names that came up for this job even before Mosley was fired. Um, and he seems to be the running favorite among media, betting sites, so on and so forth. He seems to be the guy. And as I've talked about, that would be a reunion of sorts for these two parties. You know, Donovan was supposed to take the Magic job after becoming a back-to-back national championship winner at the University of Florida. He turned the Gators into an absolute powerhouse. And the NBA was supposed to be his next step back in 2007. Well, at the last minute, he backed out to return to UF. I mean, he had been offered the job. I believe the contract was signed, so he was legally and contractually obliged to the Orlando Magic. But they respected his decision. He was obviously apologetic about choosing to back out of the job. And then, obviously, nearly a decade later in 2015, ended up leaving the University of Florida and college basketball anyway to enter the NBA. But this time, as the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, had some solid success with the group before moving on to the Chicago Bulls, where his tenure was mostly marred in mediocrity during his time in Chicago. So that's an option. But let's talk about some of the other ones, right? And this could be why Jeff Weltman is waiting and testing the waters here, because Jason Kidd just got fired from the Dallas Mavericks last week. Kidd is someone who brings a wealth of experience as both a player and a coach, and has found success as both a player and a coach, more success than what the Magic have experienced in uh, nearly 20 years, right? And also more than what Jamal Mosley had under his belt and was capable uh, of doing for the Magic in terms of elevating this franchise. So he's on the table, right? And then there was a report, I believe Mark Stein had it first, that the Magic interviewed Jeff Van Gundy, who is currently serving as an assistant coach on Tyronn Lue's staff with the Los Angeles Clippers, right? He's been there the last 2 seasons after being away from coaching for nearly 20 years due to a very successful TV career as an ESPN analyst. Obviously, one of the three big voices of the NBA Finals alongside Mike Breen, excuse me, and Mark Jackson during the late 2010s, early 2020s there. And so he's on the list, and that's another guy that has a wealth of experience. His coaching career began um, in the late 90s, 1989, 1990, which is actually the same year that was the first season for the Magic in the NBA. And assistant coach with the Knicks for several years. In 1995, 96, I believe he took over as interim and then got the job and was successful with the Knicks. And then he moved on to Houston, not quite as successful, but still as a head coach, as a plus 500 record, right, in the regular season and a 500 record in the playoffs. So, that's an option, right? And then, if you want to look at one of these younger, unproven, like strong basketball minds, if the Magic decide they want to go that route again, because remember, I mean, Orlando was Jamal Mosley's first head coaching job. He'd been a longtime assistant with the Mavericks, and then took the job. But another one to look at would be San Antonio Spurs assistant coach Sean Sweeney, who is garnering interest from several teams. That's what the reports have been saying. This, again, would be Sweeney's first head coaching gig, but he has over a decade of experience as a coach in the NBA as an assistant at various places. And, he's been upgraded. He's the associate head coach of the Spurs. And obviously, we see what the Spurs are doing right now. They are 2 wins away from knocking off the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder and punching their own ticket to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2013-14. So that's on the table. And it's going to be really interesting to see which direction the Magic want to go. Do they want to go for a Jason Kidd who made his way as a point guard, one of the the great point guards of all time, and did so much as a player, and not as much as a coach, but still successful as a coach. Um, could he be the one to unlock this roster? Jeff Van Gundy, uh, well seasoned, well experienced. I mean, we're talking 3 decades here plus in the NBA. He's just been around it his whole life. And I mean, the Magic are familiar with the Van Gundy family after hiring Stan Van Gundy following Billy Donovan's shocking departure. And obviously, we know that under Stan Van Gundy, the Magic were able to make it to the NBA Finals for just the second time in the team's history. Haven't been back since. Uh, and then it's like, is it Billy Donovan? Like, who knows, right? And so I believe that this is partially why Weltman has not done anything yet. And this is not a defense of him. I don't know if it's the right or the wrong move to have not hired a coach yet. I'm leaning towards it's the right move because you don't want to jump the gun too quickly and then miss out on a candidate that could have been better. Because say they hire Billy Donovan before they interviewed Jeff Van Gundy or Sean Sweeney, or even saw that Jason Kidd was getting fired, right? Like, that could have been a little too hasty. That could have been jumping the gun, um, and putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. And so, what I think here is whoever is going to best maximize Paolo Banchero as the face of this franchise, whoever's going to best maximize Franz Wagner and Desmond Bain and Jalen Suggs in this young core that is poised to take the next step and is desiring to take the next step. I mean, I'm speaking in obvious terms here, but that has to be the guy, right? Weltman made the right choice to get Mosley as a culture builder, to get the Magic out of purgatory and the depths of the Eastern Conference, to get them out of lottery land, right, and turn them into a playoff team. Now it's time to take the next step. And can they take the next step with one of these four names, right? Because these are the four names who have been attached to them via reports. And so, and not even Jason Kidd yet, really. Like, I mean, I've done my own, analysis on that. But excuse me, I take it back. Shaquille O'Neal did say that, the Magic should take a look at Jason Kidd. And so right now we're still living in speculation, and I'm sure that the fans want a coach sooner than later so that maybe there's something to get excited about over the summer. Maybe there's you can look forward to the next era of Magic basketball under a new leader on the sideline. And that will be the first, well, second, now that Mosley's been fired, but that would be the second big offseason move from the Magic, since they suffered that crushing first round playoff series loss to the Pistons. And so, it creates momentum. It creates excitement for the fall when Magic basketball returns. But this is just kind of how Weltman operates. So while I would understand impatience and a desire for the team to go and make a hire here, I also would not advise or believe that there should be any reason for deep concern. Now, if we want to talk about Jeff Weltman, the executive, and some of the duds he's had, of course. I mean, I will not deny that. I'd probably be the first to agree with you. Jeff Weltman has made some mistakes as a basketball executive, but he has typically made the proper choice when it comes to a head coaching hire. And so he's got good names to choose from. I don't think that if any of these four guys get the job, I don't think any of them would do a bad job. It's just a matter of who is the best candidate. And so that's where we're at. We're still waiting. I'm going to keep you guys updated via articles. I'm going to try to at least do one weekly episode here during the off season. Once we get some more news and more tangible evidence of things that are happening, I will be appearing on the air more. But for now, we still play the waiting game, and that is just where things are at, right? And so Magic Faithful is going to have to be patient, right? And just trust and hope that the team does the best thing for its future. Um, and we will see where we go from here. So, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it, especially if you're tuning in on this Memorial Day when this episode's dropping. Always appreciate the support and looking forward to the next one. I'm Don Strouble, and this has been Full Court Magic. See you next time.